That's important to us. We want to recruit athletes, and then we want to get them to be as big and strong and quick. Their speed, their quickness, their strength, their flexibility, their endurance.
We dig in, play good defense like we've done all year.
Passing, catching, feeding, scooping, shooting, dodging.
And have one good possession after another. Clock's in our favor right now.
This is FNL Lacrosse on ESPN New Hampshire Radio, presented by the Nashua Sports Academy. Now, here are your hosts, Nick Anastas, Coach Chris Cameron, and Coach Chris Hetler.
Hour number 2 here on ESPN New Hampshire Radio. We are presented by the Nashua Sports Academy. Nick Anastas, Coach Chris Hetler, Coach Chris Cameron in studio for hour number 2. Joined in a moment by Kyle Devitte of Inside Lacrosse Magazine, presented by Sports Stop of New Hampshire. We'll also talk a lot about NHIAA boys lacrosse. Opening day tomorrow. Big game on the docket between Bedford and Londonderry. Both their head coaches will jump on with us. Sean LeBlanc, new man for the Lancers, and Matt Girard trying to keep the streak going in Bedford. We'll close out the hour with Russ Moyer of 603 Lax and take a look at the Beals Insurance scoreboard as well. The phones are open. Well, for now, anyway. We'll be hogged here in a moment when we get our guests on, but the number is 603-883-9900. Again, 603-883-9900. Find us on Twitter at ESPNNH, and you can text the show at 50352. Time now for our swag bag segment, and that is brought to you, of course, by the Sports Stop of New Hampshire, your one-stop shop for everything lacrosse. Sports Stop of New Hampshire carries all brands of lacrosse equipment for both boys and girls. Easy to get to. They're partnered with one of the country's largest .com retailers, so if they don't have it, they can get it. Whether it's beginner packages, team sales, or a huge selection of restringing supplies, Sports Stop of New Hampshire knows your team. Sports Stop of New Hampshire, 273 South River Road in Bedford. Call 603-606-1921 or email lacrosse@sportstopnh.com. All right, swag bag segment. Let's bring in Kyle Devitte of Inside Lacrosse Magazine, a New Hampshire native as well. You played for John Stark back in the day. You are back home in the Granite State, and welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm really excited to be on and give you guys a little kind of insight into the gear side of the side of lacrosse. One of my jobs, my main job at Inside Lacrosse, is to manage and talk about new gear, new things in the industry that pop up that aren't necessarily related to everything on the field, but the equipment that's used is obviously very important in the sport. One of the things I wanted to talk to everybody about is Brian has a new head that just came out there pushing really hard called the King. It retails for $109.95. The great thing about this head is that it's built for stringers. Now, I know there's probably a lot of parents, kids listening right now. There's one of you knows a kid who loves to just sit and string. One of you does. Every team has a kid that thinks, I can make you better by stringing your stick. Trust me. And you know what? Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're not. The great thing about this King head is that it has 20 stringing holes. It's the highest amount of holes for any head on the market right now. It's got a squared scoop, so it's great for picking up ground balls. Long head shape helps you get to the ground balls faster, gets you more power on your shots. It's got a reinforced throat, and it's got new technology on the side for the cutouts to make it a little stronger on the struts and the throat. It's really an excellent head. Brian built it with the channel in mind. Now, for a lot of you people out there listening that aren't super familiar with men's sticks or boys' sticks, the channel is what every kid craves. The channel is the thing you can string into a head with mesh or traditional that allows the ball to sit in the perfect spot. Lets the ball come out the same every time you pass, every time you shoot. And I think that's important. And one of the things I think that leads into is, the youth season starts today in New Hampshire. The importance of string and youth sticks, I think, is really not paid enough attention to by anybody in the industry right now. I think,
is it more important at the youth level than, let's say, the high school or the collegiate level?
I think it is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I learned how to play with a traditional and a tennis racket strung up And you know what? It probably made me better in the long run, but it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating because the hardest skill to learn in lacrosse when you start playing is to catch the ball. If you can, parents out there, if you're buying equipment for players that start today, or you're looking at their stick, or your kid comes home after a day and is like, "Mom, I hate my stick. I don't know what to do." You know, I know you've already dropped $200+. Like, I understand that. I know that. But I think the thing that you have to look at is, does my child enjoy playing the sport? Is the stick the problem? And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it is. And I think one of the things you can do is get a stringing that allows you to catch better. And my recommendation for that, personally, is soft mesh. Every kid should start playing out with soft mesh. It allows you to catch better. If you have someone that knows how to string it professionally, which I think is worth the extra money, personally.
I agree. A lot of times it is the stick for the kid. A lot of times it's not. Someone will make a bad pass, a bad throw, and look at their stick. But sometimes when we're running our clinics, I look at a kid's stick to see what the problem is, and they have these factory-strung sticks that's like a tennis racket. I mean, for what you can get with a custom stringing, whether you like String King or Soft Mesh or East Coast Mesh, there's some great opportunities out there to get these sticks custom strung. I highly recommend it. If you don't have a stringer, I got a stringer in my house. My youngest son strings his older brother's stick, and he strings for many of his friends. But at Sports Stop, they do a great job.
Right, I was about to say that.
Howie does a great job of stringing sticks. So I definitely recommend that you want to go in there and get your stick custom strung.
Again, we're speaking with Kyle Devitte of Inside Lacrosse Magazine, presented by the Sports Stop of New Hampshire. Youth lacrosse begins today. High school begins tomorrow. So if you want to grab a last-minute equipment adjustment, then I guess today would probably be as good of a day as any to go ahead and get that done. By the way, you brought the King head in here. That looks pretty impressive.
It's really an excellent head, and I mean, it's not really built for everybody. No head is for everybody, but I really feel that, you know, I used to coach with a guy who's an assistant at Notre Dame now, and I'm sure you guys know him as well, Jerry Byrne. Jerry Byrne, every time a kid complained about his stick in practice, would say, "I can catch and throw with a shovel. Give me your stick." You know, and that might be true at that level. But I think at the lower level, if you can get a great string job, it actually helps you play. It helps you gain confidence, and confidence is a lot in sports, especially youth sports.
Kyle, you talked about the head and the options it gives you for stringing there. You know, I find a lot of the kids that have trouble at the high school level, their pockets are actually too high and it creates too much whip. Can you talk about some of the stringing options, the lock-in pockets for a high, medium, and low pocket on there, the ability to do that?
Absolutely. So one of the things with mesh that makes mesh easy, and mesh the most popular choice among all kids, really, and even adults that still play, is that the ability to pull down the mesh to create tension at the top of the head to allow the ball to not click off the plastic is really the thing that you want in your stick at almost any level. Unless you're, you know, a lot of guys that play indoor, box guys really enjoy the high pocket because, you know, they don't have the ball very long in their stick. They need to get it out quickly. But for players for field lacrosse, you need to be able to carry the ball. I find that a mid pocket is really the best for pretty much every position. You'll hear a lot of differing opinions on that. You know, feeding attackmen like to have the ball low so they can go one-handed, stuff like that. Defensemen like to have a high pocket so they can pick up the ball and have a ground ball right away. But for consistency and overall performance, I always recommend a mid-pocket to anyone at any level.
All right, again, you can get all the latest gear that you need right here in southern New Hampshire at Sports Stop of New Hampshire, 273 South River Road in Bedford. Again, our guest is the writer, or one of the writers for Inside Lacrosse Magazine, Kyle Devitte, and you kind of specialize in the equipment over there at the magazine. You got you on, dual duty today, as you're down in Foxborough later for the, MLL opener, right?
Absolutely. Boston Cannons open up against the Denver Outlaws. The Denver Outlaws are the defending champions. I've covered the MLL basically since its inception. It's really, you know, one of the things that brought me to writing in the sport. You know, I grew up playing it. I coached it for 12 years at the collegiate level, and really making the switch to Inside Lacrosse gave me an opportunity to focus more on MLL coverage, NCAA coverage, and, you know, get a good voice to go with lacrosse. And, you know, being from New Hampshire, I'm just really happy to be able to go down there and represent.
Well, I'm glad to have you on board. I'm sure the guys are as well, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Great.
Thank you. That's again Kyle Devitte of Inside Lacrosse Magazine joining us live in studio here, and some good stuff on the equipment front there. The King is the newest head from Bryan, and you guys got any Kings, any kids with King heads on your squads?
One key point there was the stringing holes that Kyle mentioned, because one of my favorite sticks is the Nas, but the problem with the Nas is you can't get it strung right. So that is so important, is to be able to string a head properly, and the head right there looks like it's something that I see a lot of players getting into pretty quickly.
You know, for the kids out there, I highly recommend being able to string your own stick. I think I bought one factory strung stick, and then after that, you know, I had it strung by someone that I respected, and then I just basically copied it, and I learned how to string my own stick after that. So I think it's a skill that all kids should learn how to do.
It's not easy. It's not easy to do. So, but if you're unsure right away, get yourself in there to Sports Stop and get them to string it up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned how to string a stick by necessity. You know, I didn't have anybody here. When you're growing up in New Hampshire in, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, there weren't shops. I had to drive to Weymouth to Comlax. You know, like I had to go all the way there to get a stick that's suitable to play with.
I think it makes you a better player too. You learn how your stick throws that way.
Absolutely.